Never waste a good crisis. And when it comes to the economic crisis, don't waste it when it can have a very positive impact.
You never want a serious crisis to go to waste.
The way we're going to win over the long term is not just militarily. We've got to win over hearts and minds. And what that means is we've got to invest in countries that have no educational infrastructure, have no means for young people to get ahead. We've got to give them a stake in creating the kind of world order that I think all of us would like to see.
Stay tuned for politics and religion.
Well, it's very interesting to see what's happening in the wake of Copenhagen. Now, before Copenhagen, there were many world leaders saying this is the most important conference in the history of the world. We heard people such as Ban Ki-moon, the Secretary General of the United Nations, saying that there were going to be structures of global governance set up at Copenhagen. The new president of the European Union stated that global governance began in April of 2009 at the G20 meeting, and that global management would be set up at Copenhagen. Everyone talked about a robust, powerful, binding treaty that would control the CO2 emissions of every nation on Earth and of every person in every nation on Earth. Well, none of that happened at Copenhagen. Everything sort of went backwards there. Since that time, we have had an unprecedented cold spell sweep the entire globe. However, the people who had hitched their star to the climate change the climate change cause, those people aren't giving up easily. New articles are appearing today. U.S. UN officials see hope for turning Copenhagen deal into binding treaty. It states here the non-binding Copenhagen Accord is at a critical moment that will decide whether it becomes a mandatory treaty for cutting greenhouse gases, the top U.S. climate official said on Thursday. Listen to what he said. It will only happen, Todd Stern told a gathering of Wall Street leaders and investors, if the major players provide the United Nations by the end of January with their promised plans for reducing carbon emissions by 2020. Now, they're asking all the major players to have a plan into the United Nations by January of this year. That would be this month, of course. And then they hope to sign a binding treaty by next November, December, when they're planning another climate change conference in Mexico City, Mexico. So these people are staying on target. They intend to exploit their control of the media to continue the brainwashing process. They're probably praying for warmer weather right now because they don't want people to realize that this whole thing is a hoax. Now, let me make sure you understand me very clearly. The rise of temperatures is not caused by CO2 emissions by man. That is a hoax. It's simply not true. If you doubt what I'm saying, I challenge you to get your own subscription to Endtime magazine, the magazine that is at the printers right now and will soon be arriving in your mailbox, has an article, Global Warming Not Man-Made, 3 Absolute Proofs. Fortunately, and thanks to all of you out there, this magazine will go to every senator, every congressman, every governor, President Obama, Vice President Biden. I hope we find a few people who love the truth in that group. You have to realize that the global warming scare is what is really man-made. And why would they do this? Because they see this as the cause they can rally the world around to one world government. This whole thing is not about global warming. It is about one world government. The dream of mankind, all the way back from the Tower of Babel until right now, the dream of mankind to have a one world governmental system. That's what this global warming is all about. This is simply the cause that they are attempting to exploit in order to convince the peoples of the world. I mean, this is a cause that you can get movie stars behind. They'll write songs about global warming. It doesn't make any difference that it's not true. And believe me, ladies and gentlemen, it is simply not true. Do you realize that we had a warming period back in the 1920s? And there was no man-made carbon dioxide emissions back then. Do you know as the emissions rose, we then had a cooling period in the 1970s? And there are articles published in Time magazine about the coming ice age. But now then, we've changed message again. It's absolutely astounding. Well, it's not stopping. They're planning on thrusting this thing on through.